A game called Ether World was released 10 years ago as a female-targeted dating simulator. However, it gained popularity among male players. The game allowed players to play with multiple options of primary characters, in which some characters were easy and efficient, while others were tough and inefficient. Among them was a trash character who was well known for his difficulty level and terrible features. However, there was only one pervert who played with this character, whose name is Beck Uziel for the past 10 years. And the pervert is none other than our protagonist, who is watching for fresh posts in the forum since they have gone wild because of a recent update in the game. Everyone in the community seems to be upset about the update. As of the latest update, a new final monster, the Black Demon Dragon, has been introduced, and no one has been able to defeat it. Player characters are being deleted after being killed by it. Our protagonist feels it's a strange update because these games are supposed to end when couples get together and there should be no final boss in a dating sim. Then someone adds that the new Dark Demon Dragon has 99% magic resistance. His attacks have no cooldown, and he continues to pound them with magic attacks. As a result, they determine that the game contains bugs since the Black Demon Dragon is a broken character. The person who posted this is a well-known ranker, which sparks the protagonist's interest in the game's final boss. He believes it makes no sense for a monster to have magic-nullifying abilities in the magical realm. He thinks it's a bug, but he doesn't understand why people's characters are being deleted after being murdered by the Dark Demon Dragon, which is the 13th moon of the Black Knight. The protagonist believes that according to the plot, in the Ether World, there is a cult-like organization known as Dark Demonic People whose purpose is to assist an otherworld called Persona Gate in taking over the Ether World. So the dragon must have arrived here because the demonic humans successfully achieved their purpose. The Persona Gate has already taken over 90% of the continent. Until then, he was solely concerned with the PvP rather than the story itself. But now the entire story is twisted up. But now that he can't avoid the story, he decides he might as well fight the dragon now. Then he accepts the task of confronting the Dark Demon Dragon, thinking it's time for him to show off the skills he's honed over the past decade. The protagonist then controls the Beck Uziel figure, who stands in front of the dragon. Beck Uziel is the only character in the game that cannot use magic, even though everyone in the game can use magic, which makes him the worst character to choose as the main character. As the dragon charges to attack at him, the protagonist explains that he has an exception for one magic. So he can only use one magic, blink magic, and travel at light speed for a second to avoid the dragon's attack. The blink spell allows him to go randomly between 3 and 10 meters very quickly, but the user has no control over the direction he travels. Furthermore, if the user cannot judge the distance well, the user is going to die due to the speed and collision. There is also a cool time, and the mana usage is outrageous. In addition, there is a penalty that prevents the user from moving for 2 seconds after using the skill. So, while everyone can acquire the talent, most people do not use it. However, Beck has perfected the usage of blink, so he can choose the direction and distance he wants to travel while avoiding the penalty that prevents him from moving for 2 seconds after utilizing it. As for mana usage, the skill does not consume any mana at all because he does not have any to begin with. The protagonist reveals that blink is nothing more than an agile ability, but after becoming obsessed with Beck's character, he has only used the blink skill for the previous 10 years and has not used magic from the beginning, and slays the dragon because the monster is just resistant to magic, but not physical attacks. The message indicates that he has defeated the last boss, the 13th moon of the Black Knight Dark Demon Dragon. Even the protagonist was shocked that he was able to defeat the dragon despite having the game's worst character. Then he goes on the forum to brag about how he defeated the dragon with the worst character that even rankers couldn't beat. Before he can submit it, he receives notifications that the wrong ending has been achieved and 90% of the Ether World has been destroyed. The protagonist feels confused as to what is happening to him. Then a notification alerts him to reach the true ending, and the protagonist gets transported away from the gaming room. Then he opens his eyes and wonders what happened. He is in a broken building and has no idea where he is. Then he notices a mirror nearby and approaches it. But when he gazes into it, he notices Beck Uziel, the character he was playing in the game. Then a notification appears, displaying episode 1 Escape the Chase. He recalls that it was the prologue journey for the character Beck. He can't believe what's going on and checks his pocket to find an admittance certificate to Stella Academy, convincing him that he's now in the ether world. But he's sad that he got Beck Uziel, the world's worst character. But then he recalls the notification that instructed him to achieve the true ending. However, he claims the game has no true ending and instead has several endings. Then he realizes that no one has reached the true finish until now. Then he decides he can think about it later, since according to his memory, just after Beck wakes up, the guys that were looking for him will burst into the hut he is staying in and head to the window to monitor the situation. As expected, people were looking for him. He instantly hides and decides he needs to leave. Then the head of the group looking for him sees the hut and commands his members to check in it. Note, as our protagonist is currently in the body of Beck Uziel, I will refer to him as Beck. Returning to the story, Beck appears to be tense, unsure what to do because there is a limit to how long he can escape them and he cannot fight them. Then an announcement appears, informing him that he can use the ability Blink. Beck is surprised to learn that he can now use Blink. He cannot accumulate mana in his body since he suffers from magic syndrome, and can only hope to use Blink. It was also the spell he had practiced for the last 10 years. However, Beck believes that, despite using the skill for the last 10 years, he only used it in the game while controlling his character with a mouse and keyboard. Then he hears the footsteps of those who are chasing him, and decides to try it once because it is the only other option available at the moment. He begins to flee the hut, but is noticed by the group of people that is pursuing him. They also start chasing him, and Beck believes the first part of the tutorial has begun. The goal is to avoid pursuers by blinking. Beck knows that those people are wearing magic boots that allow them to run quickly. The only way for him to escape is to use his blink. He calms himself down and believes the timing is ingrained in his muscle memory because he has used the blink countless times previously. The pursuers who are already behind Beck abuse him and demand that he stop. Beck is preparing to use the blink at the perfect moment. However, the biggest downside of blinks is that if the user loses control of the distance and collides with an object, he will die instantly. However, for Beck it is different and uses it before the man behind him slashes him. Beck effectively uses it. Group members are shocked to learn that Beck is a mage with the ability to use blink. The leader shouts, "Good for them!" as the user is paralyzed for 2 seconds. He is startled when Beck does not stop but continues to run even faster. Then, as Beck runs, he realizes he needs to take advantage of the uneven terrain, as players who don't know how to use blink will never make it to the next episode. In truth, 99% of the gamers who tried Beck Uziel failed this tutorial. Those 1% who made it through the tutorial were unable to overcome the barrier of blink distance control and continuous blinking. However, Beck was an exception. As he blinks continuously, he leaves the group behind. They think he's crazy to use blink in these terrains. The leader orders the mages to move forward and attack him with long-range spells. Beck notices that mages are attempting to take him down, and remembers that the second part of the tutorial requires him to utilize blink to avoid the magical arrows flying at him. However, he believes that in the game, he could see anything behind him and avoid it. But he doesn't know what to do now. Then a notification appears, indicating that Magic's Leakage Syndrome's derivative skills, Sixth Sense, and Cognitive Acceleration are being used. Because of his abilities, he was able to sense the magical arrows behind him and dodge them without turning back. As the concentration of the arrows increases, he uses the blink at the perfect time to avoid the attacks. Then he continues to run until he reaches the last part of the tutorial, which involves crossing a canyon while utilizing blink. To accomplish this, he has to control the distance he travels perfectly while using blink. After that, he meets the passing mages and escapes with them, and the tutorial ends there. But the challenging part for him is to cancel the blink spell at the correct time, as blink occurs in 0.1 seconds. So if he fails once, he will die immediately. Also, there are roughly 20 floating boulders. He curses at the guy who created this tutorial. Then he thinks he can cross the canyon, but the problem is that people are pursuing him, as they will arrive before he can reach the other end of the canyon. Then he believes that the only way for him to survive is to kill everyone. Then he flees and hides himself before they reach the canyon. While hiding, he feels it's insane to believe he can kill them because he's never fought once in his life. If it were a game, the system would not allow him to kill any of them. Yet, however, because it is a reality, he may do whatever he wants and is not bound by the system's rules. And he feels no guilt about killing them, not because they killed his parents, according to the story, but because he believes he can win. Then, as they approach the canyon, Beck reveals his location, and the members begin to dash towards him. The first guy believes he's an idiot for thinking he can take them on alone and rushes towards him. However, as he enters the blink radius, Beck triggers the blink and stabs him immediately. Beck believes that even though he can feel blood streaming down his hands, he has no remorse for killing them in order to survive, and he strikes the guy in the neck with the knife before kicking him towards the group. They're frightened, but the boss orders them to catch him. As Beck continues to flee, he notices that it has become unusually silent and glances back to check whether they are after him. Then he understands the group has gone to the higher region to launch a magical attack on him. The magicians launch a tremendous fire strike that causes Beck to worry, but when he sees a tree branch, he blinks towards it to avoid the attack. A member believes he has died and blames Beck for being so arrogant up until then. But then he senses he isn't there, and before he realizes where he is, Beck jumps from above him and delivers a deadly blow, killing him. Then he thinks, for the time being, only 2 of them remain for him to kill, although 2 more members are lagging behind and could catch up at any time. Then the head of the group thinks he is a strange individual with an uncanny reaction time for a wizard and asks Beck who he is. Beck does not respond, but believes his reaction time is faster than most professional gamers, but only when he is gaming, not in real life. So he needs to terminate this as soon as possible because he can't keep dodging their attacks forever, especially when they are in close range. With a confident expression on his face, the commander claims to have already determined Beck's fighting technique. He thinks this guy has just utilized blink and dagger, so if he defends his neck and face, he will be unable to accomplish anything and uses his aura to cover his sword, and launches an attack called Ice Wall, which builds walls of ice between them, and believes he is going to die after impacting his ice wall. But Beck is a Chad, as he kills the other guy since the leader had been concentrating solely on himself. The leader is taken aback because Beck had previously been running like a dog and wonders how he is now kicking their ass. Beck, with a taunting expression, thanks him for helping him get better at it. The leader is enraged after hearing this and assures Beck that he will definitely kill him this time. Then Beck picks up the spear and throws it at the leader. Leader realizes Beck is throwing the spear to distract him, cuts the spear strike, and prepares to counterattack him. Leader assumed Beck would attack him from behind and turned. However, Beck delivers a vital hit to his heart from the front. Then a message shows that Episode 1, Escape Your Pursuers, has ended. Then another notification informs him that the Constellation Project rewarded him for uniquely constructing the story. Beck sits down and tries to recover, exhausted from the battle. Then, when he sees the dead body, he realizes it's no longer a dream because he used his first blink, fought his first battle, and murdered someone for the first time to survive. Then he gets up to escape the area by crossing the canyon. Then he learns he can take their money and loot both bodies, accumulating 2 million in credit, which is equivalent to 2 million won on Earth. Now he proceeds to cross the canyon and sees the group of mages that appears in the tutorial. Who waves at Beck, Beck waves back. One of the group members asks whether he can cross the canyon since there is no bridge. Beck confirms that he can, and a wizard instructs the group to wait for a while because Beck said he will cross the canyon. However, another member is concerned because the canyon requires at least a third-class knight to get through it. But then Beck begins to use the blink and easily gets through some boulders. After witnessing this, mages are taken aback by his ability to use blink, while a girl covered in clocks watches him from behind. Then one member says that with the blink ability, the user cannot control the direction or distance. So he becomes confused as to how Beck uses the blink with such precision. The mage then observes 2 persons behind him and wonders if they are also with the boy. They are 2 individuals who were left behind by the group that was targeting Beck. They begin casting magic to kill Beck and attack him with fire magic. The mages group warns Beck about the oncoming attack. Beck was able to avoid the strike at the last moment and discover they're the same mercenary group as before, and understands that evading all of their magical attacks is impossible due to Blink's 3-second cooldown, and plans to look for the next floating boulder to teleport to. But before he could move, another magical strike came at him, which he barely dodged. But the stone he was standing on was cut in half, causing him to fall. Then he realizes that all of the flying stones are too far away from him, so he blinks to the nearest one and barely grasps the stone's edge. But before he could be relieved, he spotted a fire attack headed his way and assumed it was the end of his life because he would die as a result of the attack. However, another ice magic with lighting around it neutralized the fire attack. Beck is amazed by the mage's ability to use 2 magical characteristics and to meet them in the tutorial round. He believes the caster precisely calculated the trajectory without spending any mana and wonders who the mage was. We can see that the caster was the female who is covered up by the clock. The mercenary magicians, terrified and pissed off, fled the scene. Beck, still hanging at the edge of the stone, is relieved to see this and believes he can finally live. Then, after he crosses the canyon and joins the group, he approaches the girl who saved him and thanks her. She says she didn't do it to receive gratitude, so he doesn't have to worry about it. Beck says alright and thinks she has the prettiest voice he has ever heard, even if she appears kind of difficult to approach. Then he considers the mercenary organization, sometimes known as bandits that loot nearby villages. However, in reality, Dark Demon Cult is responsible for the majority of such operations. However, they cannot break into the mage's territory, and the dark demonic humans will be unable to pursue him. And since they attack random villages, they have no idea who he is. Then a notification appears, indicating the beginning of episode 2. Enroll in the Stellar Academy. He believes the second episode is not too difficult, but he is annoyed when he has to go back to school at his age. Then we see Beak traveling with the mages who helped him. When he sleeps, he has a dream about a small child who tells his mother that he wants to be a mage when he grows up. His mother says she believes in him. Then, after working very hard to save money, Mom and Dad purchased him a magic textbook. Then he studied hard, confident that he would make his parents happy. But one day, his ambitions fell apart when he learned he had a rare condition called mana leakage syndrome. The small child begins to cry, feeling that he will no longer be able to realize his dream. It was actually a memory from Beck Uziel's childhood. Then, Beck wakes up with a slight headache and discovers it is already morning. Then a mage says he was going to wake him up, but he's glad he woke up already. He informs him that they will arrive in Lazoica, the satellite city of Arcanium, soon. However, the magicians decide to take a break before resuming their journey. As the Beck steps out and begins to stretch, he discovers the blue-haired girl who saved him is staring at him. And as he returns her gaze, she turns and walks away. Beck believes that was cold, but then concludes that everything is alright because everything is going similar to the timeline of the game. Then we see the magical world known as Ether World. It also includes cities, trains, and flying ships, as well as wrap holes that could transfer people from one location to another, making long-distance travel more convenient. And now, Beck with mage friends he met along the way are on their way to Lazoica City to get on a flying ship. Lazoica is on the way to Arcanium, and the main episode will start when they get to Arcanium, the city of magic. Arcanium has renowned magic towers, mage knight orders, and 5 renowned academies. In them, the academy with the most powerful mages, as well as the most excelling students, is Stella Academy. So Stella is filled with geniuses and nobles from all over the world. And he still doesn't understand how Beck got into a place like that. Then he realizes he hasn't checked his skills yet and opens the status window. He observes the sixth sense and detection acceleration, and believes that if he hadn't had these powers, he would have died long ago. He has a cursed physique that prevents him from accumulating mana, which is an inherent curse in Beck's body. However, this also allows him to detect mana around him using his sixth sense. Bro is Flash with Spider Sense. And, similar to Spider Sense, his sixth sense allows him to sense any strikes going towards him even if he is not looking that direction. The detection acceleration allows him to notice things as if time has slowed down, even if the attack approaching him is faster than human beings can detect. These skills are important for Beck because he is unable to use mana. However, he cannot utilize the sixth sense for long because it requires a lot of mental energy. Then look at his stats, which are not bad for a starter. Then he adds that in the ether world, there are multiple levels, one for each stat. The levels measure the skills, while the stars measure the stats. And the greatest number of stars a stat can have is 9, which is impossible to achieve. Because he has been playing this game for over 10 years, the highest he has achieved is 8 stars in stamina and sensitivity. Then he decides that, for the time being, he should simply invest in sensitivity to improve his sixth sense, which will also raise his reaction speed. He can also improve his stamina and flexibility using other methods. But the issue is his mana leakage syndrome. If he does not train it, he will not be able to survive very long. He believes he should improve it to the secrets of nature physique as soon as possible. Finally, he must find a technique to reinforce mana leakage syndrome, as it exists within the Stella Academy. This also means that he has no choice but to attend Stella Academy in order to save the world and treat his sickness. Beck reflects on how much he dislikes going to the academy and wishes he had something to assist him out there. The messages show there are some unread notifications, but Beck dismisses them because they need to continue their journey. Before he gets into the carriage, we notice the blue-haired girl staring at him. What's her problem, man? Just talk already. Okay, back to the story. We find Beck has boarded the floating ship that is traveling towards the Arcanium. The pilots announce that they should take a seat for their safety. I don't see any seats, though. So people start to notice Beck and criticize him for wandering around like a confused kid, assuming he's on the floating ship for the first time. He labels him a country bumpkin, loudly expresses his confusion as to why Stella, which is considered to be the most prominent academy in the world, must allow peasants in. Beck realizes they are attempting to pick fights with him and ignores them, believing that children are the same wherever he goes. The bully guy becomes enraged and orders Beck to stop, after which everyone gossips about someone. Because of the ruckus, the bully turns to see what is going on. Then, a girl with white hair is presented. She is the princess of the Adalabit kingdom, Hong Bayan Adalabit. As the bully boy rushes to greet her, he says, "Your Highness." She gives him a cold, menacing look that scares the heck out of him. She walks by everyone without a glance. Then Beck says she's the world's villainess. Well, she is the main character in the game. However, she and the main character are constantly arguing. She dies in the end, and no matter whatever path you pick in the game, she is never able to survive since she is brutally murdered in certain endings or bullied by the entire academy before being expelled. In some way, she goes through something so terrible she never appears in public. Beck believes the developers must have held personal hate for her for putting her to such suffering. However, he is aware that she is popular among male players due to her attractiveness. He also believes she might kill him if he speaks to her, and head to the cafeteria as he is hungry, then returns after noticing the price tags, figuring he'll eat something when he gets to Arcanum. The pilot then announces that they will be in Arcanium in 10 minutes and requests that everyone return to the first floor, and repeats the statement as we see the main characters in the story. Beck gets excited since the actual story is about to start now. Then we see him worrying about whether he can actually survive the Stella Academy. Then he considers whether he can even survive in this world, as it will be attacked by the Dark Demon Dragon with the assistance of Dark Demon humans. He wishes he had something to help him in his current condition. Then he remembers he has some notifications that he hasn't checked yet and opens them. A notification emerges informing him that the Constellatio project has offered him unique benefits and has presented him with several options from which he can choose. Beck thinks over his options and considers a product called Returning Light or Praise of the Flash. However, the system warns him that the item's grade is too high and will be severely downgraded. Then he inquires about an ability called Hyperspace Blink. The system rejects him, claiming that the skill is an advanced version of the Blink skill that cannot be obtained. The system then proposes that he utilize the reward to slightly boost his Blink skill. Beck is taken aback by the system and inquires whether the system itself has been downgraded. The system responds that due to a lack of narrative power, the system's full power cannot be activated. Beck questions the meaning of narrative power. The system responds that the force that drives the story forward is known as narrative power, and as he explores more of the story, he accumulates more narrative power. Beck understands that the system is not providing stuff as he is a noob and the items are late-game items. Then he asks about Bulbul glasses. The system agrees to his request and provides him with Bulbul glasses. Beck believes he never imagined a day when he would truly wear Bulbul glasses. It's an object that holds all of the information on the items he's collected while playing the game. Beck adds that in the Ether world, it is impossible to recall and read information about hunted monsters or learn knowledge. Therefore, players created numerous devices to store information in their own unique ways, and his method was to store it in Bulbul glasses. Then Beck opens the folder, and a variety of options appear, with each sort of content grouped into separate folders. Beck is happy with the Bulbul glasses, and believes it will be valuable in regaining the ability he used to have in the game. Then as he walks down the corridor, he overhears everyone talking about the blue-haired girl who saved his life. They call her Acel. Her father is Dutch Malf, a traitor who betrayed his nation. They are shocked that she would dare to show her face there. Beck notices her and recalls that his glasses can register or verify character information within the story. Then her characteristics reveal that she is a fake heroine. Beck explains that even though he is in the game called Ether World, the game is based on a romance fantasy novel titled Don't Love the Princess. The novel is about its heroine, Acel, who had lost her entire family. But she continues to grow by confronting the villainous Hong Baiyin's plans and eventually ends up with the male protagonist. Her revenge plot ultimately disappears and the male characters protect her. It had a tragic ending after receiving negative criticism from its readers. However, the actual issue is that, while the game's world is based on the novel, the story has been altered completely differently. In the game, an original character named Flame was introduced, who took on the role of the heroine. Furthermore, this character, Flame, had a backstory. The narrative went that she was a woman living a normal life on Earth who loved reading the novel Don't Love the Princess and was transported to this world. So in contrast to the novel, Acel became a fake heroine in the game, while Flame became the true heroine. Furthermore, several players attempted to save her numerous times, but none were successful in any method. Beck believes it has nothing to do with him. However, he claims to have seen her somewhere before. I guess he doesn't know her because she was the one who saved her. Back to the story, we're at Stella Academy, and students are standing in an open space while a person gives a lecture about how dark humans are invading them by opening the Persona Gate, and it's the mage's destiny to stop them. Then, as the lecture ends, he announces an oath ceremony for the 4 students who were admitted with high scores, including the freshman representative, and invites the young people to the platform. Everyone stands on the stage. Beck believes everyone's faces are dazzling, fitting their roles as main characters. The brightest among them is freshman representative Ma Yuzhao. Everyone talks about him because he is the student with the highest score. Also, he is very attractive. According to Beck, Ma Yuzhao is the figure who most embodies the words throughout heaven and earth. I alone am the honored one. Bro thinks he's Satoru Gojo. Beck adds that Ma Yuzhao would reach a mana status of 9 stars, which is considered impossible, bringing him near to the world of deities. Furthermore, he is a natural genius among geniuses, capable of controlling all elements of the planet. So Beck believes that even if he cannot achieve the true ending, he must at least try to avoid the terrible endings by bringing Ma Yuzhao to the good side. However, this will also be determined by Flame's behavior, and believes it is a good idea to get along with her because she comes from the same world as him. Things could also get difficult if she considers him an enemy. But he isn't scared because he has more information than her and thinks he can play it safe. But he's upset that his worth in the game isn't even comparable to that of a shop NPC in the village, while Flame is the game's heroine. Furthermore, she possesses the unique power to cleanse dark demonic humans. Aside from that, she has the capacity to impoverish anyone around her. In other words, she can exhaust the strength of people around her. So he believes that being around her will definitely impact him. As a result, he thinks that since his part is that of a supporting character, he will avoid being too engaged with the main characters. With that, the entrance ceremony concludes. Then a notification appears stating episode 2, Enroll into the Stella Academy, has been completed. Okay guys, this is the end of the video. If you want more parts of this manhwa, please comment and let me know. Make sure to like and subscribe before you leave, and thank you for watching Manga Stories.